So moving on to the next story, Anthony Joshua recently got involved in an accident in Nigeria, and as we all know, it claimed 2 lives, which apparently happens to be his friends, and it has brought a lot of, sadness in the families of these lost ones. And as you can see, we have their pictures on the screen. That is Abdul Latif and Sina Gami. And as we know, these men apparently happens to be Muslims, and in the Muslim religion, once you pass, it is very, 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 very certain that immediately you get to be buried without no long days and all that. And as we can see on the screens, this is the cemetery view of where Abdul Latif and then Sami Gami were buried accordingly in London. And as I'm talking to you, friends and families have sent their condolences to the families of these two and are sharing in their pain and in their grief. And even Anthony Joshua has also visited the family of these two and then have shared his condolence with them. And then he made a last post concerning the demise of his friends, and then a lot of people have shared their grievances and their condolences to him. So as you can see, this is the very recent post Anthony Joshua made when he paid a visit to the family of the deceased. So as you can see, really captioned, he says, my brother's keeper. And these are the family of the deceased that Anthony Joshua paid a visit to send his goodwill message and then his condolence to them. And he has got a lot of people also sending their condolence to Anthony Joshua because apparently they happen to be his friends. Now, a lot of people have also gathered to share and mourn with the family of the deceased. Let's take a view of how this happens. So this was how the crowd moved to the cemetery to pay their last respects to the deceased, mourn, and then send their grievances to the family. And as we can see, it was a very beautiful one. This is showing love, this is showing unity, this is showing oneness amongst them. And even that, as I'm talking to you, a lot of people also gathered at the London Central Mosque to pray. You know, one thing about Muslims is that once a friend, a family, a member passes on, they gather, they pray together, and they pray that you would have rest or find a peaceful place to lay. And this is what actually happened at the Central Mosque in London, and it was very beautiful and very emotional at the same time. Let's take a glance at it. So in view of what is happening currently, though members of the family of the two deceased are mourning, loved ones in London are mourning the demise of their friends and colleagues and all that, a very good news coming is that Anthony Joshua, one of the deceased, who happens to be Abdul Latif, popularly known as Lat, in view of all that is happening, an amount of $180 has been $180,000 $180,000 to be precise, yes, has been raised to build a mosque to honor him. And this is a great one because from information we are gathering, he has contributed immensely to the people and to the Muslim community in London. And it's a very sad one. So as you can see, it says, after the passing of Anthony Joshua's best friend Abdul Latif Lat, $180,000 has already been raised to build a mosque in his honor as Sadaqah Jaria. May Allah accept it for him. So as you can see, when we say sadaqah, is like giving alms, and this is what the Muslim community has been able to do to raise an amount of $180,000 to honor his name for a great and immense contribution he has made to the Muslim community. But then, if you a lot of people have spoken about the road safety in Nigeria, because if everything should have gone on well, we shouldn't be losing this handsome man, and it has brought out a whole lot of questions. And as this issue was unfolding, information that we're gathering that the driver of Anthony Joshua, apparently, who was driving the vehicle as the incident took place, has been picked up by the police. And a lot of people want to know what is happening and what is the fate now? Are they going to really sentence him? Is he going to be released? Is he going to be left to be walking on the street unpunished? Or what is really going to happen? Nana has more updates on it for us. Nana, can you tell us what is really happening with the driver of Anthony Joshua? Is he going to be persecuted, or what is going to be done with him? Is he going to be left to go scot-free?
All right, so a very big welcome to all our viewers, those in Nigeria and those in Ghana, and also all over the world, especially Africans in diaspora who have been following this case for some time now. Once again, we are also extending our deepest condolences and sympathies to the family of Latif and Sina. Okay. These are two young, energetic guys, and trust me, they were just coming. Okay. They were just coming. They had a lot of things ahead of them. But ultimately, God gives and He takes. And we believe that perhaps the work of Latif and the work of Sina is done here on earth. So ultimately, these two are Muslims. In fact, people are even applauding Anthony Joshua for walking in the Muslim faith, because up until their sudden demise, realized Anthony Joshua used to visit the mosques with them. He visited Mecca. He's visited various mosques which are of huge significance to the Muslim community. And then Anthony Joshua had also started, learning bits and pieces of the Quran, and he really enjoyed every moment. Now, in aid of all of these things, the accident happened and claimed the lives of these two prolific young people. Okay. But then the issue here is what is really going on. The person involved, or the person who was driving the car. Initially when the whole accident happened, we thought that Anthony Joshua, or perhaps one of the friends who also passed away, was driving the car. Okay. But then up until everything started to simmer down, then we started getting details into the whole issue. So the details that we got was that apparently there were 4 people in the car. Okay. And then before the start of the trip, Anthony Joshua was sitting at the front row behind the driver, just opposite the driver. But then during the trip, the driver said that he could not see his side mirror. The side mirror, you need to have a clear view of the side mirror for you to know what is behind you, how you can overtake, and even certain things you need to have a clear view.
Navigate.
Exactly, the word is navigation. Thank you. So Anthony Joshua is a stout guy. He's really he's 6'3", he's tall, and then he is muzzled up. So all of these things kind of blocked the view, the driver from seeing. So the driver paused or stopped the car in the middle of the road and told Anthony Joshua to move. And Anthony Joshua moved to the back of the driver. How coincidental. Anthony Joshua could have just got down and moved to the other side
of the vehicle.
Which is at the back of the first row, the passenger row, at the back of the first seat of the passenger row. Yes,
just
behind the other side, or at the back of the car. And this car that they were traveling in was a Lexus Jeep. But Anthony Joshua, for some reason, sat behind
the driver directly.
And the driver said that he told Anthony Joshua to sit behind him. So, in the along the way, as the trip was ongoing, then we don't know what really happened. The car just slammed. But then onlookers and also passengers along the same stretch recorded seeing Anton Joshua's car speeding uncontrollably and also driving in the midst of cars, overtaking and doing all manner of things which does not go in line with the road safety regulations.
Okay.
So ultimately, the accident happened. Their car rammed into a stationary vehicle, which ultimately damaged the entire car. But then the severity was half part of the car. And then where Anton Joshua was sitting, that was where one of the victims was. And Anton Joshua exchanged seats. So the victim died on the spot. And then the other side to where Anton Joshua should have sat, right at the back of the passenger, the first row, at the back of the first row of the passenger. Anton Joshua didn't sit there. The person who was also sitting there also died on the spot. In fact, eyewitnesses reports suggest that these guys lost their heads.
That's sad.
Their heads were decapitated or something. So most of the pictures that can realize that there was a whole car door on one of them, or almost all of them, their heads.
Okay.
That was because half of their heads, almost majority of part of their, yes, the majority of their heads were chopped off, were just blown off like poof. Their brains were just knocked out. So it was a very sad event, and in the midst of all of this, people started asking questions. So the questions ultimately led the Nigeria Road Safety Commission, the Nigerian police, to start investigation, and they arrested the driver because the driver survived. Anton Joshua survived. And the driver was asked in court because the driver was taken to, I think, Sankara court or so, one of these courts in Nigeria. And they asked him, is he guilty or not? And he said he is not guilty. And then he started to give an account
of how
of what
everything
really exactly. And he said that he's been driving Anton Joshua for 3 years. In fact, whenever Anton Joshua comes to Nigeria, he's the person who drives them. I mean, all his team members. And what is even more shocking is that this driver in question, he had an expired driving license. So that makes the case very worse. And they were saying that, okay, now people along the stretch were saying they record you over speeding, overtaking, and that caused the accident. So are you guilty or not? He said no, he's not guilty. But then he was no over speeding, overtaking. What happened was simply a brake failure, because as the car was heading towards the stationary vehicle, he noticed that they were going to hit that particular car. So he was continuously slamming or hitting on the brakes, but the brakes were not responding. So that also takes us to another query or another, version of this whole event, which is how safe was the car Anton Joshua was traveling? How safe was it? How safe was it? Did he just jumped from London to Ghana to Nigeria and just hopped in any car, or just rented any car? Was the car rented? Was it for him? These are questions that we need to ask. And ultimately, these two young guys have just died, which is a very, very sad thing.
Yes, it's quite unfortunate they have to lose their life in such a situation. And then we send our condolences, and then we pray that may they find a good rest in the bosom of Allah. Now, let's move on to other issues. A few days